Hi friends, this next video might not apply to you, but maybe it does, but maybe it does, but maybe it does, but maybe it does. I've been asked this question many a times. Doug, how do you play Dungeons and Dragons? Especially as a follower of Christ, as a Christian. It's a great question. Like I said, this isn't a video for everyone, but if this interests you, keep watching. Now, this video is to share with you and clarify a little bit about my personal convictions about the game itself. In no ways is this to sway you of your personal convictions, but hopefully it will inform you a little bit about what the game is about. So let's get right into it. My first point is I want to clarify the difference between occult practices or dark practices versus entertainment. When we look at occult practices, I think of things like Ouija board and those type of things that are designed by nature for darker spiritual purposes, and I don't think you should be fooling around with those type of things. Dungeons and Dragons, on the other hand, is a board game at its core, and it is for entertainment, and that is what the game has been designed for. My second point is, why is D&D seen, or why was D&D seen as the devil's game? Now, Dungeons and Dragons came out back in 1974, and there's quite a bit of Christian pushback from a lot of different communities. Now, the same pushback can be seen with games like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and other fantasy genres of entertainment. I understand when you look at Dungeons and Dragons from afar, how it can look as a dark game. You look at the artwork that, especially back in 1974, was quite dark. You also look at the lore that has deities and things like that. Also, the monsters can range everywhere from Tolkien's orcs and goblins to much larger and much uglier creatures. This brings me to my third point. What is Dungeons and Dragons, and what does that look like for us today as we play it? That is a great question. Dungeons and Dragons is a game that is all about a collective imagination. There is no board, although sometimes we do use a board when it comes to combat, but for the most part the game is done by narration, which is brought to you by yours truly. Usually the game master or dungeon master is narrating the story as everyone around the table is collectively imagining the same thing. I know it seems very abstract, but that is the game in a nutshell. Everyone has a piece of paper that has their character roll, their character flaws, as well as a couple of dice just so that they can roll certain abilities. But other than that, that is what the game is at its core. Collective imagination as your game master narrates you through a certain adventure. It's a game that relies more on acting and drama than it actually does on mechanics, which is something that I really appreciate about Dungeons and Dragons. So what that looks like for me and my friends today, here and now, is us sitting around the table enjoying each other's company as I narrate them through a storyline, and we do what's called a homebrew, which means we don't really stick to the lore with the deities and different things, but rather I'm in control of what the world will be shaped like, which leads me to my next point about dungeon masters themselves. Lastly, if you are a Christian and you're thinking about getting into Dungeons and Dragons, please, I implore you, know your game master or your dungeon master, as well as please know the party that you are joining. Like I said, the game is all about collective imagination. As a game master, you get to control about how light or how dark the storyline is going to get. Now, as a game master myself, I keep my storylines more on the side of C.S. Lewis or Tolkien. I love those Christian fantasy authors. They are fantastic, and I love the work that they do. And that's kind of where we leave ours, more focused on the light than the darker side of the lore. See, this is what I love about Dungeons and Dragons, is that it's more than just a game. It's a never-ending story that you get to join in and partner with all of your friends in creating. So if you're thinking about getting into Dungeons and Dragons, please find people that want to keep it in the same realm that you want to as well. I have a lot of Christian friends that join us for these different parties. A lot of them are in ministry themselves, and we really enjoy the game and how we can bond together over a night of playing this weird interactive game where we just use our weird voices and do a lot of narrating. We love it, and it's honestly a really fun game in a way that we bond all as friends. Thank you guys for watching. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I hope this was informative for you guys. We are still all friends. If you have any questions, please send me a private message. I would love to hear feedback from you guys. And as always, whether you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or on social media, please do not feed the trolls. Thank you guys.
Police are under and the police are joy, but have you ever stopped to ponder what happens when someone goes under? The doors closed and all residents. This is Primitive.
Really hoping that something can thievery
Oh, okay. All right. I see what you're saying. Maybe we're looking more in the imp territory of things, huh?
An imp sounds nice. What kind of imps are you be keeping here?
Well, I'd like to let you know that imps are a little bit illegal in this area.
Illegal to own or illegal to... No, I lost my train of thought.
Then you hear this like wind blustering through this hall, and all of a sudden the room is just filled with darkness. Everything goes black. The only one that can see is you. And Shren beside you, kind of like.
You make him such a wimp!
I'm sorry.
He's a friggin' cave bear!
Okay, he's big bull. Let's do this.
Of your wisdom to enlighten us like you have enlightened this room.
Roll a d20. He hates puns. He hates puns. He's an old dragon.
We also brought gifts if that gives me a boost on my d20, which I rolled
20!
a 20.
He gives us the gold! Hands up! Wow, I am impressed. Wow, 20 when you need it most.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
I was ready to grovel like an idiot.
I'm so all of a sudden, from behind, you sort of see this, you see the stone, like that stone sort of town where it was kind of illuminated. You all of a sudden see a giant claw. As you look up, you see a dragon. He's about, in size-wise, he's filling the cavern. Like he's 200 feet, roughly in height, fully upright, and he is what you'd know as a mithril dragon. So he is this golden white, almost illuminating the room by his own self. And all of a sudden, you hear his thunderous voice. What gift do you bring?
What gift do we have?